Yep, go for it.
All right. Welcome to VibeMakers, quick conversations with culture activators, and just very interesting people to boot. Today, I am welcoming Dr. Bobby Hulme-Lippert, who's a leadership coach, keynote speaker, and creative writer who helps leaders and teams grow through the power of story. Before launching his coaching practice, Bobby spent 2 decades in professional ministry, pastoring diverse congregations in Atlanta, Richmond, and Greater Austin, and serving in the U.S. Army chaplaincy. An award-winning storyteller, Bobby recently published his first book, Small Stories About Big Things, which invites readers to find fresh direction, insight, and connection into everyday moments unfolding all around them. He lives in Oak Park, Illinois, go Illinois, with his wife and their 2 young boys. When he's not speaking, coaching, or writing, you'll find him hiking, doing yoga, or trying to keep up with the endless energy of his 2 boys. Welcome, Bobby. I'm so excited to have you. We've known each other for a little while through the Disrupt HR circuit, and now I get to have you on VibeMakers.
Yes, thrilled to be here. Thank you.
And Bobby, you and I got to meet through Disrupt HR Houston, and it was funny because you and I bookended the event. I got to kickstart, we're talking about zombies, and you ended up talking about single track belonging, which was really interesting. I just loved the topic, and it was just so, you just felt it. Like the whole idea of, I couldn't just pick one track. Life is so much more than that.
Yes. And I love the bookend because it was obvious you are a person who gets what culture is about, that it really is an atmosphere, a vibe, an energy that we know, even we can't always put words to it. And then I got to end, and I felt a privilege to do that. And my goal was to give a feeling sense of the insight, because I think when we have a feeling sense of whether it's values or the mission or wherever we're going, the feeling sense is the engine of how the culture changes.
Oh, that feeling sense, like that's a really interesting way to put it. Like I hadn't heard people really use that before.
Yes, I think I use the word I think there. We go to our cognitive, intellectual abilities, like, okay, what's the mission, the vision, the thing? Let's fill out the business plan form and knock it out. But the engine that actually allows people to change is when they feel a deep emotional investment. We make decisions with this space, not here. And I remember, I first discovered this by not knowing any of that. I was in nonprofit world forever as a pastor. And I remember I showed up to that first church in Atlanta, Georgia, and I knew they wanted to change and grow and try new things and reach out to the community more. And so I started a new service of worship in the evening, and they'd never done that. And within a year, I'd revamped the website and even got a new logo for the church. And then when I left that church, just a few years later, onto another thing, and had a great experience after, all the new things I started were done. And saw the website and the logo, but I was like, wow, it is possible to sort of kind of paint a really good looking thing, organization, business, nonprofit, mission statement. But I had not learned how to take the time to invest the whole people from here in shaping the culture. And so when I left, honestly, a lot of things I'd done just kind of fell.
Yeah, because the people didn't carry it, right?
People didn't carry it. Not their fault. I hadn't taken the time to help it land here.
I love that. I had that journey too. I think I started, when I first started in people and culture, to me, culture really was like, okay, we have our core values and we have really jazzy brand, like employer brand. We're the cool kids on the block, and we had the swag and all of that. And to your point, it was really, that was great. It was exciting. It's really good in building up energy and excitement. But unless you're really embedding as Yitzki, my last visitor on VibeMakers, said, people make culture, cultures make people. And so that to me really resonates, and that hones in on that people piece.
Yes.
So do you think that was really that catalyst moment for you to really kind of understand that culture is beyond that? It's more than the design piece.
Yes, that was an awakening as I arrived to a second church I serve with a long history, and a lot of things they did a certain way, but wanting to grow and in new ways in serving the community, same kind of thing, but realizing, okay, can't simply, I'll say, paint the walls and do a website and just bring a lot of great energy. What I learned there were the two things, and I didn't even have words for what I was doing. It came intuitively. The first was realizing the value of getting offsite to transform onsite.
Interesting.
I recognize this church I was serving worked with a number of nonprofits. Mainly it was supporting them financially. What if we do our annual retreat at that nonprofit? Like, let's just go there for the day and spend time in it. And let's do all of our work there, not in the building where we normally do most of the things. And that was the first time I started to see that culture can change when people can breathe different air together outside the normal air. Because what they're doing is when you go offsite, they start to open up at a different human trust level. They just start to be a little more free. And it's that trust piece that they bring back with them into the air that they're trying to slowly transform. And I find it's easier to get that trust people, that thing happening offsite, people a little freer, a little more open. And then they discover the gift, and it's easier to bring it back into the building and see the openness start to happen. So that was one tactic that I've used multiple times, and I do in my coaching now because I see how powerful offsite is to transform onsite.
It makes me think of transformation, right?
Okay.
Of anytime there's a moment of growth or transformation, and you see a lot of leadership teams going and having their offsites, quarterly. I've been a part of a lot of
Sure.
those, and it does really put everyone, it's level set, right? But when I think of transformation and really creating that space, that safe space, that level set space, it reminds me of something you said too about slowing down.
Yes.
And transformation. So tell me a little bit more about that, because I think in today's world, everything's go, 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 growth just to grow, and no space, no time. And that to me is really interesting. So can you tell me a little bit more that slowing down to speed up?
Yes, absolutely. I'm a big believer in slowing down the speed up, but I know when I work with organizations or leaders in my coaching today, that initially feels like such a big risk. I remember a year ago, I was working with the executive team of a wealth management firm. I was helping coach them. And I said, I think we're going to kick off with an offsite for a day on some of the local hiking trails near your office. And I could tell there was sort of this deep breath, like a day is a massive investment.
Dollar symbols going on in their head.
Right.
Yeah.
But I had a relationship, so there was some trust. So I said, so we go for it, and we're out there, and the first thing we do before we even start hiking is just circle up with the group and hold a space. You use the word space, where I invite them to name what they sense are just the ground rules for what they want this day to be about. You all name how this is going to be held, and they named that they wanted to feel like they could be honest. They did not want to be judged if they said something. They named it themselves. I was like, oh, these are good. This is good. Let's space. And then we start going and we start talking about what really matters and where we want to go as an organization through different tools. And usually I could talk later about, usually I use a lot of story. I want to hear their stories and what the story wants to become. And as they do it, they've slowed down. They're hiking, they slowed down. You could say, wow, you weren't in the office. A lot of things you could have been doing. But they have built the inner sense of resonance and felt sense of, oh, this matters. This is good. We're going somewhere. And because they leave a day with the desire through the roof, they can't remember the last time they felt that significant level of like, I'm in. It leads to, a speeding up of things because they've really raised again their feeling sense. And of course, the art then is how do you sustain that? But to go back, slowing down at its best really actually ends up speeding up all the good work because you're raising this feeling sense that we overlook too quickly.
Yes, exactly. And if you have this buy-in from the team, not even buy-in, but an understanding, it's
Yeah.
that flywheel effect. Things do start speeding
Yeah.
up, and then when you hit resistance, it's okay because you have that momentum, and it just really that trajectory is a little bit easier next
Mm.
time you have a bump in the road.
Yes. Yes.
For me, you had mentioned something that I talk a lot about with culture design is, a lot of companies say, well, what's going to make our culture the best? Well, I don't know. You tell me, right? Let's name it. And then we can start to build the form and the function to help get us there. And so you had mentioned storytelling. If you don't
Yeah.
mind, like maybe that's a loaded question, but like when you think of like storytelling
Mhm.
and getting, naming it and telling stories to get us there, can you tell me
Yeah.
a little bit more about your thoughts around storytelling and how that builds culture?
Yes. I mean, just at a general level, I'll say storytelling, all the brain research shows when leaders speak by way of stories, they are hitting on conscious and unconscious levels of the people. So it's powerful. And when people tell stories back towards the leader, you're just getting so much more. How I use it, for instance, when shaping culture, values, how we're going to really be the best culture. I don't, for instance, sit down with individual people I coach or teams I coach and say, okay, let's walk through what are your values, or what do you hope your values will be, or let's get
Right.
out the values checklist. I say, you tell me couple stories of when you all were at your best. As a team, if it's a team, assuming it's a team, just tell me a couple stories from this past year when you all were at your very best. And I just draw that out. If at first they're just like, I guess when we landed that account, it was really good. Okay, just back up. So what got you there? How'd that even start that you even got to know about that account? Tell me the story. And so eventually someone's going to fall into storytelling mode. Okay, well, I guess it was actually when we were at this networking thing, and then they go, oh my gosh, which team member of you was there at the networking thing that just, I don't know, has the gift for whatever? What happened that they made a connection, and they start telling a story, right? Well, then it led to this, and this didn't work. They tell a story. It doesn't matter what the story is. They're telling a story now. They're not even thinking values. They're telling the story of when they were at their best this past year. Might have been hard, usually was, because your best is usually doing something difficult that stretches you. Fine. Oh, it's awesome. They're telling a story. And me, I'm sitting there listening. I'm listening so intently for the key phrases and words that they're using, the images, what's getting repeated. And then once they've told the story, I just reflect back to them. Is this some of who you are? These, and just top level, just what the words, phrases I was hearing. And it's almost like watching, this light bulb go off in each person who lived the story. And yet they're like, oh yeah, those are our values. And I'd say, yeah, absolutely. Because your values aren't like these abstract things that like you kind of think you probably should be about. They're actually what you're doing.
Yep.
At your highest and best. You're living them. And so story can awaken that. It almost sneaks up. So you get the true thing, and not sort of like, again, whatever you think you should be doing.
I love that because, the stories, and you also get to see the emotional connection to it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also the conversation, like what it's called, the first date, best date and the worst date questions.
Okay. Yep.
When are we at our worst?
Yep.
And then
I've sometimes used the proud, not proud, but same idea, and you have to be delicate because you don't want to take them down the notch too far. But yeah,
yeah.
But it's either way, a revealing about what you truly value, and if you break the value, why it disappointed you, or it was not a proud moment. Yeah.
And that's exactly right. And I feel your sentiment a little bit because, the one thing they always say about company culture is it's what we tolerate and we don't tolerate. And sometimes I get a little, I recoil a little bit about the not tolerating. It's like, well, maybe it's an education piece, or maybe it's just not an understanding. But there is that tension between what we strive to be and where we are today. Have you dealt much with organizations or leadership teams that know they need to go to a different point or be at a different level, and they're not there yet? How to bridge that gap?
Yes. So what comes to mind is actually the church I served in the Austin, Texas area. One of the first things did in that first year was blew out a big wall to open a much more expansive sense of openness and hospitality in this area that was kind of crammed, and so it made things awkward in coming in and out of Sunday. And so this busting out the wall was a visual architectural move to suggest spaciousness, welcome, openness, things you might hope any faith community would be about, or any organization, quite frankly. And it was like, okay, yeah. But I could tell, and so could key leaders, that architecturally that was the move. How are we going to get hearts to feel that sense of openness? Because it could be easy to kind of be closed in and hang out with the people you like and do the things the way you did. And by that point, I learned that simply updating the website was not going to facilitate the change. What I saw was again rooted in story.
Huh.
The pandemic was a whole thing and awful on so many levels. One of the things that happened during the pandemic for this church was that no way to meet, and we're just all distance. And so I started this coffee thing in the morning on Wednesday mornings. Anyone can come for virtual coffee with the pastor, and we got all on there. The first one must have 40 or 50 people. Everyone just wanting to connect, whatever. And I'm all in leadership mode. Like, okay, I want to talk. Like, what? And this is only a month or so into the whole thing. And I'm like, what is this? Is this sort of like a storm that's going to blow by and we'll be like, wow, that was a thing? Is this like an ice age? Like it's going to forever reshape society? Like, I wanted to talk tactical, intellectual, like things. And the first person that raises their hand to respond to my like big, like leadership question was just like, so how are you? How's everyone doing out there? And I'm like, oh, we want to tell stories, don't we? I spent no lie. I spent a year every Wednesday over coffee on Zoom, and I facilitated the stories of members. And we came up with fun themes, different ways to tell stories, but I just invited them to tell stories. And it was like I had fast forwarded the trust button 10 years because they had learned to open it. They felt safe opening up to me, to others. And so, yeah, the wall had been knocked down, but now they also knew there was a space where their voice and their ways of being and their weird things, their whatever things could be said, could be storyified. And it was powerful and beautiful to see how much story can fast forward trust, receiving the story of others.
Yeah. And it starts with that leader. If we expect others to share their story, it takes that leader to open up and create the space. But then it's that first follower mode, that person who got on and said, how's everyone doing? It's finding those people.
Yeah. Yes. Oh man, absolutely.
What's the one thing that you would like to see when it comes to the way we work from a cultural perspective shift?
The thing that comes immediately to mind is increasingly seeing more leaders who value and hone skills around facilitation. Because facilitation at its highest and best is honoring and drawing out the wisdom that's already in the room. Yes. Whether that's your team, your whole organization. I mean, I used to, I just keynote speaking, and I started out kind of with this deep belief that it was almost like standing behind the pulpit and man, you just got to be good. You just got to be so dang good. Hit it every word and every point and no misses. And there was a time for that. Now the real value, and I got to even do this last week, is opening with a question that is actually meaningful to the audience. In fact, I opened last week with a question, not unlike what I shared a few moments ago. When were you doing your best work this past year? When were you just on fire with what you were doing? Share with a partner. And they start to share out, and they feel the raise and the energy in the room just sharing, and they share out to the whole group. What'd you all say? What'd you say? When? What? And they say, and now like, okay, Now we're going to spend the rest of this hour trying to tap into whatever that energy was about. That wasn't hustle energy. That was a different energy. How do we draw that out? And then the rest of the keynotes, the wrong word, the rest of the facilitation exercises that honored the wisdom in the room were simply, in many ways, about trying to find the best possible question to draw out what was already there. More of that kind of leadership, I think, invites, and I've had to discover it the hard way, because again, for a while I thought you had to just nail the expert thing. These are some of the most recent times I've just realized, no, the art in these days is drawing what's already there.
Yeah, exactly. It's similar to, Netflix's context over control. And if
Yeah.
we can provide the right context and the right clarity of, or the right questions, then they have the freedom within the framework to expand and bring their expertise.
Yes. Yeah. Well said. And I think I'll add, I think in this information age and this sort of AI slop age, where it could just be overwhelming with all the just stuff that actually there's a real gift to leaders and people who are learning to trust the wisdom and insights that are already very much in the human themselves.
Yep, exactly. And the questions, I love how you put that. It's almost like, they say with coaching, holding up the mirror and shining the flashlight, that's what it is. It really is. The best leaders are coaches. And from a training perspective, like if you have a group of managers and leaders, especially those first level managers and leaders, maybe even their working managers, how do you kind of set up that type of atmosphere for them?
Well, I want them to have, honestly, this is where a lot of my one-on-one coaching comes in. First, have the experience just with me. I think they have to have a firsthand experience of the possibilities of slowing down to speed up, the possibilities of having different spaciousness within them instead of sort of the crowded churn of I've got the calendar and I have got to knock these things out, and discover, oh my gosh, if I risk letting go and I just listen to what's really important and what I really want to happen and what some of my best gifts are, if I could listen into that again, there's actually a profound clarity. So each manager has to have the experience themselves. If they don't believe it at that level, there's no tip, trick, or hacks.
Yeah, and what that makes me think about too is I was just in my old HR Hive community, we have these live group like coaching sessions. We call it the Hive seat. Yep. But this great coach said, it's amazing the clarity we get from watching other people go through a coaching session. But that makes me think of your storytelling.
Yeah.
There's amazing clarity that may not even be directly related to that story that you're hearing, but everyone can project themselves into that story and what that means for them.
Yes. I've been on multiple calls where I have watched someone else be coached or coach, and so illuminating. I should add, I could hear someone over listening to saying, this is all great. You're going deep. You're getting offsite. You're doing the things. Hey, there's still a lot to be done. All good coaching, all good facilitation is about raising that sense of desire and motivation and deep values that, like, yeah, this matters, to the point where you absolutely want to act. In fact, all the further clarity will come in the action. You can't sit and stew on this all day. Absolutely not. So action remains fundamental to this, is what I would want to add.
That's really good. Any tips on maintaining that action? Is it continuous communication? Is it content delivery? What does that look like?
I am a bit of not by the book in terms of, well, once you commit to 3 posts on LinkedIn a week, because that's your action, do it. I mean, maybe and I've helped be accountable, help coaching clients be accountable to things they wanted to do. But mostly the biggest accountability when it comes to action is finding practices that help you come back to that energy, that sense of, there I am. That's me at my highest and best. I mean, for some people, they do their morning yoga because they know they're just going to breathe the day differently. They go for the hike at lunch because they know they're going to breathe the next meeting differently. If they go, they have a weekly coaching or biweekly, just because they want to come back to that sense that drives all of their creativity. I don't think creativity can be mapped out in this sort of machine, almost like a machine, 3 times a day, 4 times a week. I mean, some people do it and it works, but I am much more like there's a different engine that comes from in here. And if you can keep honing that, those action pieces will want to come out as part of your gift to the world and what you're about.
It's so true. There's so many times I'm not one to schedule my post out or anything like that. But, if I go for a run or a walk in the morning, I seem to be a little more energized. But being a rather impatient person, I'd rather get that post out. Like if I write something, it's like, bam, it's going out. And it may not have anything to do with what I'm trying to do for business, et cetera.
Right.
We get so wrapped up into the minutia of, well, I'm supposed to be doing this. I'm supposed to be selling this. So everything that I do has to be, centered around that. And I feel like even with AI, that's allowing us to rewrite the same thing we've already written 5 times.
Yep.
That we're losing a bit of that edge and that genuine authenticity in our content.
Oh, so well put. You use the word supposed to or should. Gosh, that's a heavy energy. Yeah. And again, I'm a pastor, so I'll go with this word. There is a soul energy. It does not run on that. It runs like a river that's got to move because that's what rivers do. Tap into the river. It'll move.
That's a great way to to end cap that, because I know we could probably talk forever on this. Bobby, you're not writing books, what are you reading?
I like a good novel. Okay. I find that fiction stretches my imagination, my way of being. And I've read nonfiction so voraciously over the years that I like stepping into just a different headspace. So we're traveling to Japan at the end of this year for a remarkable trip. I've never been there. Right. And so I have been reading novels by Japanese authors to prepare myself, which sounds like it has nothing to do with any of it. But actually, I think fiction can cultivate a sensibility and creativity that I enjoy.
Yeah, honestly, that's usually the fiction I go for, is the historical fiction. I like historical fiction because I'm like, okay, it may be a fun story, but it's also teaching a little bit. Just read Gentleman in Moscow.
Yes. Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, I feel like I'm learning.
Yes.
But, yeah. So if if people wanted to find where you are, get your book, learn more about you, where are they finding you?
Yes. The 3 easiest places, bhl.coach is my main website. Okay. Coaching, speaking material. Amazon is where you can find the book, Small Stories About Big Things. And I have a Substack where I keep up with just stories sort of on the side, also called Small Stories About Big Things.
And if you haven't seen Bobby speak, I mean, it's just, he's so good. Like, big fan. Hopefully we're both in the Midwest now. So hopefully I can come watch you up on stage at some point in the near future. And
vice versa. Yeah, that'd be fun.
Great. Well, it has been such a pleasure. I appreciate you coming on VibeMakers, and look forward to chatting again soon.
Thanks so much, Marnie.